are tough to handle right now is just the increased demand. Like I mentioned before, everyone wants an ARM box in their building now, from your retirement homes and seniors that can't afford to, risk their lives to go return a stock at the local Walmart, at the local Target, to higher end property management groups that are looking to offer this amenity towards showing their customers and their tenants that they are making an increased effort towards being able to protect their safety and everything in light of the pandemic. So we're really excited about the future.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, and is sponsored by Leumi Tech, Hippo Insurance, Turing, Upwest Labs, and Hillel at Stanford. Returning products sucks, but thankfully, we have Flindel to help solve it. Meet Ugochi Owo, the CEO of Flindel, a reverse logistics and proptech startup focused on automating commerce returns. They make returning anything ridiculously easy for consumers of retail businesses and viable for retailers. They make it possible for consumers of retail stores to drop off the returns from the comfort of their homes without risking the exposure and inconvenience of venturing outdoors.
Ugochi Owo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I'm doing very, very well now that we're having this conversation. I'm excited to learn all about your journey, all about Flindel, your experience and your passion, not for logistics, but your passion for solving puzzles. And so I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better over these 20 minutes. Just to get us started, tell me a little bit about what you're doing with Flindel. And once you do, to set up the stage, I want to go back and hear about the journey of creating Flindel, because that's always the most interesting piece of an entrepreneur's journey.
For sure. I mean, Flindel, we are a reverse logistics company focused on automating commerce returns. That just means that we make returning anything super, super easy. So what the vision is for Flindel is that you'll never have to go to the store or to the post office to drop off any type of return, whether it's from a brick and mortar store like a Walmart or Target, or from an online store powered by Shopify. You'll be able to do that right in the lobby of your apartment building, your office building, or your condo building, and get your refund within a 24-hour time frame.
I love that. I have to say that I still haven't, until today, and my girlfriend will kill me if she hears this, I still have a pair of shoes that I've been meaning to return online, and they're sitting in the back of my car because just, taking that trip, in COVID, obviously it's harder, but taking that trip anytime to, the post office or dropping off at a certain piece, it just never seems to fit in the hours of the day. And you just keep delaying it, and it just doesn't happen. So I'm waiting to be a customer of Flindel. So please just sign me up already. But, now going a little bit backwards. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and how you get to become, an early stage entrepreneur. What led you to that route?
For sure. Growing up, I've always been, like I mentioned earlier when speaking with you, I've always been into solving puzzles. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person that if I am solving one of those like 3,000 piece puzzles and there's a piece missing, I'll actually go to the store and get another box and then find that one piece to be able to solve it. So, I mean, it's a strange idiosyncrasy of mine, but then at the end of the day, it ended up paying off. So as a kid, I was always into like presenting, and, I would go to meetings with my dad and stuff like that growing up. And I hated it as a kid because who wants to go and sit in an adult meeting? But it ended up paying off. It ended up paying off, growing up. And basically what happened that triggered Flindel was that I purchased an item a few years ago, off of a website, which was the store was based somewhere in California. And at the time I was in Toronto, for something, and it was a pair of sunglasses. The sunglasses were $100. I was totally fine with paying that. The shipping cost was $150. And on top of that, it would take like 2 weeks for it to be able to get to my house. And I became the most annoying person to be around for about 6 months. I would tell people, what's really annoying? Shipping, and here's why. And at the
I love
time,
that.
the idea was to start like a localized AliExpress, Amazon style thing, but for everybody else. And what we realized at the time, I was super lucky that I had friends that had online commerce stores that were like doing crazy numbers. And I asked them like, hey, before I commit to this idea, is your problem fulfillment? Like, is getting an item from like your warehouse to where the customer is your issue? And they said, no. And I said, you're lying. I don't want to hear it. That's a lie.
Of
So
course.
I didn't believe that returns was the actual problem. So I went to Krispy Kreme, and the Krispy Kreme in Toronto. It's like in a really obscure location. So like everyone knows the brand, but no one actually knows where the Krispy Kreme actually is. So I bought like 4 boxes of Krispy Kreme. I took it to a random co-working space, and people started swarming me, asking me for donuts. And I said, sure, if you tell me your returns experience or your online shopping experience. And then every single person pointed towards returns. And then I realized, okay, so the idea earlier was like, if this item was in my city at the point that I'd ordered it, it'd probably come a lot faster and a lot cheaper. And then with returns, if somehow we can be able to take that core idea of hyperlocalization being the key to reducing lag and apply it to returns, we might get somewhere. Meaning that right now with online returns specifically, if you want to return something, you have to ship it all the way to the retailer in China
Right.
or in Australia or in England and pay shipping fees on top of that before there's a circle back when you get your refund about a month or two later. What we realize is that a product doesn't actually have to leave the market that it's in before the consumer, which is you and I, can find out if they can get their refund back, yes or no.
Right.
That can all be done in-house. And then taking it further, we realized, oh, wait, so we have this cool solution. Why not apply this to both, like all kinds of returns? Both physical returns, like from brick and mortar stores, like a Walmart or a Target, because no one likes going to the store. No one likes waiting in line. No one likes those awkward experiences of having to explain, like, why am I returning this item? Because it sucked.
Right.
So we realized, okay, we can have this happen for everyone. And how do we make this possible? Through smart boxes. We created these smart boxes for drop-offs of these returns. So basically, how this works is that as a consumer, you can just walk up to this box. It's kind of like an ATM. You put your return into the box and you just walk away. And that entire experience is less than 3 minutes. It is totally contact free. So you're not talking to any humans, and especially in light of COVID. It's totally like easy, super, super short time period. So as opposed to the almost an hour that you'd spend driving to the store, waiting in line and wasting so much time, it's just now reduced into that 3 minute time frame. And it's a really quick turnaround. You just have to wait under 24 hours. And we're hoping to, in the next few years, with really great partnerships, get it to be instant refunds. And that's us.
I think that's really exciting. I definitely the instant refunds is something that it could be that I'm definitely seeing. Obviously, now that everything is connected, the refund you just need a form of proof that you've returned it. Then the company would probably feel comfortable issuing that refund. And I'm seeing that there's a few interesting challenges that I'd love to dive deeper and get your pick your brain on. First of all, you mentioned this hyper localization. So really, the problem is that you want it to be really local to the person, right? You don't want them to be driving, and going for that hour back and forth trip to the post office and standing in line and do it. It needs to be one solution for the automation is to have it as a standalone box. You don't have to communicate with anybody. There's no line. But the other problem is that you need it to be hyper localized. So you're dealing with a problem where you have to install these things at scale, right? How do you even go to, it's like a marketplace. You really need to conquer a city. You really need to have it everywhere. So how do you even go about doing that?
For sure. I think that as a company, again, nothing beats experience. So one of the things that we did when we realized, okay, we're a city by city model, meaning that we conquer Austin.
Right.
And then we conquer Toronto, then we conquer New York. It was like being the smartest people that have ever created the biggest and the most important city by city startup to join our advisory board. And those two people were very, very, very early at Uber. So one of them currently manages Uber's global operations. And then the other person was like employee number 3 or so at Uber. So meaning that they understand how to be able to scale a company from like the itty bitty stages up until a multi-billion-dollar, franchise. And the way that we see things is that so what we do is that we partner with property management groups like Hines, Greystar, companies like Hilton and Marriott and everything to be able to provide our ARM units, which is what our boxes are called. That stands for Automated Returns Machine. And we partner with them to be able to provide that inside of their building. So once they have one of these units installed, what happens is that customers that are living in their building can return the items into that box. And then customers that are in that vicinity or in that city can also return or drop off their items at that box if they're nearby. And the reason why this is so important is because, especially with regards to the point of hyperlocalization, our company, we're going to have a bigger returns footprint than any other store, any other retailer in the world. And what we can say is that we're going to have a bigger returns footprint than Walmart. Walmart currently has 4,800 stores in North America. And for us, there's over 2.3 million apartment buildings and multifamily buildings that we could potentially put our box in. If we only hit like 10% of the market, we're bigger than every other company combined. Our goal is to be able to create a Jetsons-like future. I don't know if you remember the cartoon, The Jetsons, where everything just happened. You never have to leave your house to be able to go to a restaurant. Your house will become the restaurant. And you've seen that with companies like Uber Eats. You never had to go to the mall. The mall would just come to you. And for us, it's that reverse experience of bringing the mall back to the mall. So the vision is that you might be coming home from Target and you realize, oh, shoot, I really shouldn't have bought this journal, or maybe I bought the wrong size, as opposed to you having to waste fuel and even like your carbon footprint and everything, driving back to the Target, or even scheduling your entire life around that return. You just drop it off in that box nearby, or drop it off in the box in your building on your way up. So that's the kind of future that we're trying to create.
And so you have that, the one piece of the puzzle is you as the consumer having to go and making it, seamless for me to return an item. And then there's the whole other piece of how do you actually get that item, in the same, shape and condition to the merchant that you've partnered with. And I'm imagining, that one ARM unit could be suitable with Walmart, with Target, with, whatever clothing store that I just, Bloomingdale's or Macy's. So how does that, what is sort of the logistic thinking process behind that?
For sure. To be quite frank with you, it's magic. Everything is just magical. But there is a logistics network powering everything and making sure that things, happen and operate smoothly. On the high level with regards to how our boxes operate, all of our boxes are compatible with all of the stores that we're partnered with and that we are compatible with. So, for example, a box won't just do only Walmart returns. You'll see on the unit like what kinds of what stores are available at this particular place. It's a city by city variant, meaning that certain cities may have certain stores that are not available in certain markets. So, for example, if you're in New York, you might have like a Saks on your ARM in your building, but then if you're in Houston, you might have a Ross, or you might have a Marshalls. And so like the stores are, for the most part, we're city specific for like more niche retailers.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about, this show is I get to speak with entrepreneurs at all different stages of their companies, from very early stage all the way to managing public companies, and really picking their brain on some of the most, scary, challenging, yet fun and exhilarating things of where they are today. So I'd love to hear from you. At what stage really would you categorize Flindel right now? And what are some of them, both the scariest but also most exhilarating things that you're experiencing as an early stage entrepreneur?
For sure. Stage that we would categorize ourselves. We're at the stage, we're about to blow up. Like that's the stage that we're in. So we're just preparing for takeoff. In terms of what the scariest things right now is being able to deal with the increased demand that has happened in light of COVID. So all of a sudden, everybody wants one of these smart boxes in their buildings. Everyone wants to be able to have them in their senior homes, in their retirement homes.
Right.
Grandma can't go to the store all the time, and that's not safe. And higher end property management groups want to incorporate this to show their tenants that they're making an effort towards COVID. So for us, it's just being able to deal with the demand and have stellar customer service while doing so. In terms of the most exciting things, honestly, it's just we recently.
That sounded pretty exciting for me, I have to say. What you just said.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I'm a millennial. So like the things that excite me, yes, I love the fact that we're increasing our customers and everything. I'm also really excited about the commercials. So basically, we're really, really excited about the fact that we have a lot of really great announcements coming up, including new advisory board members that are like super, super advantageous to the company and towards fueling our mission. The other thing is just that in terms of the things that are tough to handle right now is just the increased demand. Like I mentioned before, everyone wants an ARM box in their building now, from your retirement homes and seniors that can't afford to, risk their lives to go return a stock at the local Walmart, at the local Target, to higher end property management groups that are looking to offer this amenity towards showing their customers and their tenants that they are making an increased effort towards being able to protect their safety and everything in light of the pandemic. So we're really excited about the future and super bullish on us long term.
Right. How do you see, the landscape of companies that are working on this? Obviously, we can look at companies like Amazon that are working extremely hard on their fulfillment process and return process, whether it may be through, drone deliveries, or whether it be, their acquisitions of multiple, last mile companies. Obviously, I'm saying the other, the everybody else really that doesn't have the capacity to run these massive operations, that they are excited to utilize these resources because they don't want to be dealing with returns, hyper localized returns all over the United States. So are there other really big people that are trying to tackle this problem? What's been the response that you're getting from these retailers and companies that are potential partners of yours?
For sure. I mean, from a retailer perspective, you have to remember that infrastructure is a very difficult thing to be able to do, right? So what these companies end up doing, even companies on the largest scale, like Walmart and everything, they end up relying on other parties towards being able
Right.
to enhance and complement their existing services. So, for example, with us, like we're not in competition with Amazon. We're more of a complement to companies like Amazon. So we are a totally different market segment, totally different customer segment, and eventually we will be able to do returns with Amazon in partnership. So, like for us, it's not like the return space is a very fragmented space. It's also a very massive opportunity. It's still quite early with regards to now companies are now starting to pay attention to returns. Before companies like Amazon set a precedent in terms of super fast fulfillment, super fast delivery, get this thing today.
Right.
Now we're thinking about how can we get this item back to the consumer and how can we, optimize on the consumer's experience so they keep coming back. So our company is only going to help to accelerate that. And again, we have the advantage of being just super, super, super early into the space. Yeah.
Right. No, and I have to say that I'm excited to go on my own venture sooner rather than later, and I'm excited to get as excited as you are talking about the different things that are happening.
Yeah.
It sounds really, really wonderful. Well, Gochi, tell me a little bit about what surprised you as an early stage founder along this process. You're growing very fast. You're seeing a surge of demand for your product. You're bringing people on board. You have an engineering team in Toronto, while some other folks are in Austin. So you're traveling back and forth. What is it? What is the experience like? What has been some of the most surprising things that perhaps a fresh young entrepreneur starting their journey wouldn't even think of?
Um, Very random, but
Please.
don't wear a suit to meetings. I remember my very first meeting, and I remember like just thinking of what I thought the startup world would be like and how it's supposed to be business. These are people that are conducting multi-million deals and everything, and a friend of mine had introduced me to an investor for practice, right? And this was before Flindel was even Flindel. This is when I decided that I was going to, like be in this space. And I went to the meeting, had a suit on. I looked like I was going to an interview on Wall Street. And the meeting, he messaged me that this was at Starbucks. And I said, okay, I think he's asking to meet at the Starbucks so he can lead me to his office because obviously he doesn't want to meet right at his office. And the meeting was at Starbucks. So I get to the Starbucks, I sit down, I'm waiting on this dude. He comes in like a t-shirt, right? And this is a dude that has like sold over 6 companies for 9 figures. Like I came in and I'm like, huh? And then he looks at me and he looks confused. And I'm like, I'm coming back from a function. That's what I said. Because I was so embarrassed and everything that could have possibly went wrong in that meeting happened. But
Amazing. Good
great
thing it was
thing.
a practice.
Yeah, it was a really great thing for me because at the end of and I haven't spoken to that person since, but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what it did teach me was that you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. Number one, number
Right.
two, you shouldn't be afraid to fail. Like there's so many different things. Like as long as your core idea is okay, it's okay to continue pivoting and it's okay to continue adapting and adjusting. So you shouldn't be married to the entire thing. You should be married to the core concept. Things change over time. And the other thing is just like, again, like don't wear a suit to a meeting because the suit means opposite. It means you're trying too hard. Versus I've gotten more respect in a t-shirt and jeans than I have wearing any dressed up attire. So that's one of the things that I love most about the space.
I completely love that. A few words about deciding to launch the company in Austin with engineering in Toronto. I just recently spoke with a good friend of mine who's a principal at a big VC, an early stage VC based in Texas. But tell me a little bit about your decision to start the company there. Obviously, I know you grew up in the area, but was there a decision to be made, or was it natural that it would be
Yeah.
there?
So I did grow up in Houston, which is about a 2 hour drive from Austin. And the thing with Toronto is that Toronto is a really interesting city. So Toronto is great for like the up and coming entrepreneurs that are in Toronto, like from a labor perspective. As an
Hmm.
American looking in, there's a lot of benefits towards having a certain amount of staff located in Toronto and operating in Toronto. And in terms of Austin, I mean, Austin is Texas. So Texas, I'm naturally biased for it. And I'll argue night and day that it's way better than the Bay Area. And you know this by virtue of all of the people that are now moving down to Austin and, ruining everything. But Austin has a lot of really great things. The city is full of so much life and has so much character. And then the tech ecosystem there is like booming at a really incredible rate. I was taking an Uber and the Uber driver like pitched me and then we connected. And that was like that kind of atmosphere, that kind of
I
ecosystem
love
is
that.
only find in the Bay Area. Now you're finding it in other markets and other cities. Plus the weather's great, so I'm not going to complain. And it's a tax-free state, so we're going to be thankful for that. So yeah, there's just so many different and great benefits, like both from a personal perspective and then also from an economical perspective as to why, Texas, specifically Austin, is like the
Right.
perfect for any company really to be able to grow and thrive in.
I love it. Ugochi, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really, really appreciate it. Before we leave, I have to ask you for the most important question, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Funny, witty, and charismatic.
I love that. Ugochi Owo, thank you so much for being here. Best of luck with Flindel. I can't wait to see it for myself. I can't wait to use it myself. And I can't wait to see where you take this journey forward. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.